What's up, everybody? It's your boy, the non-lawyer, coming at you with a really quick video. Actually, this is going to be a response video to another video I recently watched. And the title of that video is basically called T.I. and Tiny Will Be Destroyed in Court. And it has brackets around it saying replay. And this video is actually done by Storm Monroe. Now, with that said, Storm Monroe appears to be a very competent blogger. And this video is not an attack on Storm Monroe. This video is just really a response to a video that he did. And I think in this video that he's done, he basically reads the statute and then he gives a critique about T.I. and Tiny's situation. Overall, I think this video is a little bit unfair, or it is a little skewed. And I think that this video doesn't leave people with an open mind, or it doesn't invite people to look at T.I. and Tiny's situation with an open mind. So I'm making this video in response to his video to invite everyone to think and use common sense and to approach the T.I. and Tiny situation with an open mind. Now, he gets into his video by reading the statute on consent, and most of his video is based off of consent. So here he is right here reading the statute in Georgia as it pertains to consent.
Defining consent in Georgia. This was last updated March of 2020. Okay. How is consent defined? There is a lack of consent if a person engages in a sexual act with another person by forcible compulsion, or with a person who is incapable of consent because he or she is physically helpless. You mean like those women that passed out? Mentally defective, slow, Chicana. Mentally incapacitated, or because of a victim's age. Now, all right, mentally defective is like a mental disease. We already know that. But then mentally incapacitated means that a person is temporarily incapable of appreciating or controlling the person's conduct as a result of the influence of a controlled or intoxicating substance. Oh, you mean like alcohol or ecstasy? Ooh. Administered to the person without the person's consent, or that renders the person unaware a sexual act is occurring. Here's the thing. If you offer somebody some and you say this is ecstasy, but it's really a Mickey, I wasn't expecting to take no Mickey or roofie. I thought I was taking ecstasy. Ecstasy don't make you black out and you don't remember what happened the next day. That ain't how that works. I don't know what this shit. I don't know what it's actually called. I grew up with people saying Mickey, look out for Mickeys and roofies and shit like that. You know, look out for the cocaine. Anyway, I say all that to say, look. Physically helpless means the person is unconscious, like them girls that passed out. Physically unable to communicate a lack of consent, like once you get so drunk and you don't want your boy to do, you thought you was just doing T.I. and Tiny. Now you gonna pass him off to your boy, because that's what they do in this industry. They all like sleeping with the same girls. It's how best can I explain it? Think of the industry, a bunch of hyper masculine men that enjoy running trains.
Okay, so now that you've watched that video, let me say that my personal opinion is that he's just taking the bare language of the statute and he's trying to apply it in T.I. and Tiny's situation, but he's not doing it with an open mind. He ends up reading the statute and then he starts to give lots of anecdotal stories about consent. But here's the problem. When you look at T.I. and Tiny's situation, most of the allegations involves consent. What do I mean by this? Well, there's one particular allegation, and I think it's on the Lisa Bloom's Twitter page. I would pull it up, but I'm not going to waste time pull it up. But generally, the allegation says that T.I. and Tiny were in a hotel room with several other people, and they said, hey, look, we're about to pop Molly, do some coke, and we're about to get down with the lowdown. And if you're not into that, leave. So here's the problem. If anyone stays and they choose to pop Molly, do coke, and get down with the lowdown, then you have given consent. Now, given that, there's probably going to be different degrees of consent, my argument in this situation is that if you stayed for drugs and you stayed for the activities, you gave your consent. And I think the way that Storm is reading these statutes, he's not thinking from as it pertains to Ti and Tiny's situation. Even when you listen to Ti's video, his response, he's basically saying that we like what we like and we know where to go and get it. So my personal opinion from following this story is that yeah, Ti and Tiny, they like having wild parties, and there's probably a wild parties in Hollywood. And Storm talks about that, but you know what? Who cares? Who cares what celebrities like to do on their own personal time? Who cares what you like to do on your own personal time? My thing is, whatever you like to do to please and enjoy yourself, that's your business. It shouldn't be put out there for the public media. Whatever Ti and Tiny does is their business. It shouldn't be put out there on public display. So the problem is that I haven't heard any factual evidence of consent. What I'm seeing is Sabrina Patterson or Peterson, or however you pronounce her name, she gets into some type of altercation with Ti and Tiny, and because of this altercation, she's essentially trying to, in my opinion, I allege that she's trying to get other women to come out and jump on the bandwagon to essentially attack Ti and Tiny. Now, what you guys have to understand, people are trying to use the excuse that all these comments are the same, or all these allegations are similar, but these people don't know each other. That doesn't mean anything, because what it could mean to me is that yes, they probably have these crazy parties, and what it means to me is that people consented, and now they see that there's an opportunity to get a bag. They're going to come out and they're going to change their story, right? They're going to mix facts with truth. Yes, I went to a Ti and Tiny party, and they know all the details of what goes on into those parties. And what they're going to do is that they're going to flip it and say they didn't consent, knowing full well they consented and they were down with whatever happened at those parties from the get-go. Now, I can understand that, there could be a situation where there is some buyer's remorse. You consented and you weren't happy. I can understand that, but it doesn't change the fact that you consented to it. I really wanted to put this video out here because he talks about consent. He hasn't presented any facts and he hasn't presented any evidence that Ti and Tiny did not have the consent of the individuals involved. I think what's happening, as I said earlier, is that Sabrina Patterson, she's going out because she's angry and she's hateful, and she's trying to find other people who's dealt with Ti and Tiny, and she's trying to get them to hop on the bandwagon and to essentially try to get paid. And that's all this is. Because if there were any serious allegations of misconduct on the behalf of Ti and Tiny, you would have heard of it long before, and these people would have come out long before. All this is a witch hunt, and it's being driven by Sabrina Patterson. I don't think the industry is driving this witch hunt against Ti and Tiny. I think it's just one hateful individual, right? In my opinion, that's Sabrina Patterson. And I'm saying that under freedom of speech, right? I can say what I believe based on the evidence that's out there. She's bitter, she's hateful, and she's remorseful, and she wants to get revenge on Ti and Tiny. And what I believe is that she's trying to stir up this witch hunt so that she can find other people willing to jump on the bandwagon. The fact that people are coming out and they're saying similar things and they don't know each other means nothing to me, because that's exactly what jumping on the bandwagon is. You see other people are doing something similar, then you jump out and you jump on the bandwagon. You tell your story and you know details because you gave consent before. The only thing you're doing now is that you're switching it up and you're trying to say that you didn't consent. And that's all this is, in my opinion. Now, unfortunately, I think one thing that Storm Monroe probably has correct is that Ti and Tiny are going to suffer for this. That's something we can both agree on. Because of these allegations, And because of the lawyers that are now involved, T.I. and Tiny are definitely going to suffer from this. Will they survive it? I don't know. I'm going to make another video which talks about how they're using the Bill Cosby playbook on T.I. and Tiny. And it's not necessarily a Bill Cosby playbook, but it's the same it's the same set of plays that they use on Bill Cosby and they've used on other celebrities, but I've just coined it the Bill Cosby playbook because it's just memorable, right? But they're using this play, right? And I don't see a way for T.I. and Tiny to actually evade it. And actually, I think T.I. actually fell victim to it, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. I'm going to agree with Storm Monroe that they could possibly be destroyed, but I just don't like the way the material was delivered in his video. The reason being is that it's in the box thinking. You're simply reading what consent is, and then you're giving these anecdotal stories about consent and coercion, but you really don't apply it to the T.I. and Tiny situation. And from my understanding, anytime T.I. and Tiny did something, they went out specifically to contract people to basically get involved in their lives. So that in itself implies consent. If I come to a entertainer and I say, hey, me and my girl are trying to do this. We want you to come and join us, so on and so forth. There's going to be drugs. There's going to be Molly, whatever, and you agree to it, well, you just gave your consent, right? And he's not talking about that. And again, just going back to the allegations that's on Lisa Bloom's website, T.I. and Tiny tells everybody, like, look, we are going to do Coke and Molly, and we're going to get down with the lowdown. If you're not down with that, then you need to leave. If you stay, you've given your consent. Now, given that one of the people who actually exposed this actual event didn't get down with the festivities, I think that person should be sued because they basically are violating Ti and Tiny's right to privacy, right? And then that person is coming out and they're telling all these crazy stories about how one girl was disorientated and so on and so forth. I think that she should be sued, for invasion of privacy, because this is clearly a situation where Ti and Tiny, they're having fun, they're living their best life, they're doing what grown people have a right to do, and they're just having crazy parties. Those parties may not be for you. They may not be for me. They may not be for whomever, but that's their business. They have a right to do that. So that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know what you think. Do you think T.I. and Tiny are actually going to go down for this? I personally think they will, or there's a strong chance that they will. But on the same token, I think that they could actually survive it. We won't know until the allegations, the people behind the allegations actually come out. And I don't want to get too far into that, simply because I have another video in which I'm going to talk about the Bill Cosby playbook being applied to T.I. and Tiny. In that video, I'm going to talk about, the possibility of arrest and, additional things of the nature. So let me know what you think. Do you think T.I. and Tiny is going to be destroyed? Do you think that if you go and watch Storm's video, do you think that, maybe he was thinking inside the box and he wasn't being open-minded and his thinking was just a little bit too limited on, the idea of consent, so on and so forth? And do you think that T.I. and Tiny actually coerce? Do you think they actually drug people purposely so that they can have their way with them? I honestly believe that they just simply like having wild parties, and they told people up front what it was, and those people chose to engage. And because that was a chain of events, I think they had consent of every person that they actually engaged with. I don't really believe the stories that are coming out that you were coerced, so I just don't really believe that. But you know what, we have to hear more details about these accusers, because right now, from what I'm hearing, is just jumping on the bandwagon. That's it for this video. Questions or comments below. Like, share, and subscribe.